All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, for joining us here. You know who I am, and you probably know this gentleman over here, Mr. Andrew from Andrew's Wizard Reads. He may be the king of page count here on BookTube. I don't know. We'll get into that and all kinds of good stuff. But Andrew, I like to always ask this question first. Who got you into reading?
Oh, that's my mother.
Was it your
Easily
mom?
my mother. Yeah, it was my mom.
So
My mom was a big reader.
how did that begin? Was she reading to you was she encouraging to kind of push you into it? How did it go when you were a child?
Oh God, that's something I haven't really thought about in a long, long time because my mom passed 10 years ago. So it's not something I think about all that often. But if I have to recall, I distinctly remember my mother reading a chapter a night of a book called Joshua, I think is what it was. And essentially what it was a retelling of like if Jesus was like reincarnated in like the 50s as a carpenter and stuff like that. It was a
Huh.
retelling of a Bible story. And she loved that book. And then you would think because it was a religious text that she would keep me away from Harry Potter. Not the case. She would take me to the midnight releases as a very young child. She would take me to the midnight releases for Harry Potter. I remember having, at 10 years old, one of my Christmas gifts was a mass market paperback copy of The Hobbit. It was this black cover. If you know the cover, you know it. Like it's got Bilbo with these shaggy black locks on it. He's super fat. He's looking over his shoulder, holding Sting, and then Gollum's just got this beak of a nose, and he's like this brown goblin. It's an awful cover of The Hobbit, but if you know it, you know it. I got that. And then, I mean, she used to make sure to take me to the local library for like the summer reading fair. So I was just always encouraged to read.
That is awesome. Oh, looks like Tony made it. I know he was skating along
Mm.
here. Uh, yeah, that I mean, I always love hearing people, especially booktubers, like how they kind of got into it because I mean I had a long weird road to get to because I my parents didn't really it was a weird thing, but yeah, not really much reading until I kind of got it into myself when I got into high school. But yeah, I just love to hear those stories. What was Harry Potter your first fantasy book that you remember grabbing yourself, or was there another one that got you into the fantasy realm there?
So I'm old enough to remember Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone or the Sorcerer's Stone, however you want to call it. I remember we were at my elementary school. I think this was like first or second grade. We did a lock-in, and we were in the gym, and somebody pulled out a folding chair, sat it down in the middle of the gym, said, "Gather around, kids," and they whipped out Harry Potter. And they read the first three chapters, and then Harry Potter proceeded to get me in trouble 2 years later when I've told the story on BookTube before, but I was reading during class, and we used to have those tub desks with the lid that would lift up, and you
Yeah,
could store stuff, your crap in
yeah.
there instead of having a cubby or something like that. And then of course there'd be like gum in there from that was like 7, 8 years old. Um, and my friend had a copy of I think it was Prisoner of Azkaban. I had a local library copy of Prisoner of Azkaban. I'd also checked out the copy from the school library. So my copy got taken. So then I pulled out the school library copy. That got taken. So then I pulled out my friend's copy, who was sitting like right next to me, and the teacher just gave up. So because I was just magicking these copies of Harry Potter out of my butt, and she looked at her desk to make sure I hadn't stolen the copies back mid lesson. They were still there, and here I am still reading. And
It's
so
like
I'm
Chris
pretty
Angel
sure
up in here. Book, book,
yeah,
book.
she's like, this kid's a wizard. I better leave him alone. So I think Harry Potter might have been one of the first ones. It was either Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or Dragonlance. I couldn't accurately pinpoint which one it was. I've been reading pretty much since second grade. So
Yeah, that is. I mean, I used to do the same things, but mine was more hijinks and getting in trouble. But it should have been books. That would have been a lot better. So have you always been a like voracious reader? Like, has that always been like you're like just killing these books?
no, not to this extent. I mean, the lockdown really changed the game for me, just because I was stuck in my house and I did. It's always been a passion. I was always averaging about 20 to 60 books a year, routinely, from second grade all the way up till I would always consume books. A lot of that would be rereads. I've probably read Dresden all the way through Cold Days at least 3 or 4 times.
Yep, same
Um,
here.
I've read Harry Potter up through Half-Blood Prince at least 3 times, and then if you go to Order of the Phoenix, I probably read it 5, 6 times. So I did a lot of rereading as a kid. I can't do that as much now. I don't find as much joy in rereading. But when the lockdown happened, I had already discovered BookTube.
Okay.
And so I was watching Daniel Green. I was watching Mike. I was watching Murphy Napier.
Murph. Elliot, probably. Those are like the OGs.
Not so much Elliot. My tastes with Elliot don't quite align.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot in common with the book she likes. So typically, if like she's talking about a book that she doesn't like, she's one of those ones that I'll watch if I'm looking for a recommendation on the books that she doesn't like. So she's a reverse recommendation. I don't watch the books that she likes. I instead pick the ones that she doesn't like, because then I know that's probably going to be a little closer to my taste. And I do that with her and Leanne's library. So like if Leanne hates a book, oh, chef's kiss. I'm gonna love that book.
It's coming my way.
Yeah, send it right on over. Come on.
Oh my God.
And then the lockdown happened, and I was just kind of like, my wife was pregnant, and we were, I was, finishing up my gaming life, because I had to take a 2.5. We were talking about this beforehand. I took a 2.5-year break off of video games just because kids are always getting into something.
Yeah, they want to be on you, and you're like, I can't dominate over here, guys. Like,
and I found I could be used as a jungle gym if I was, holding a book, or an ebook at the very least. The Kindle can take a knock, and really all I've lost is my space, and I can just go back. But I just kind of I was pressured by Nico and Megan from Megan's Reading Revelations to start a channel. Figured I'd give it a shot. And then that year I read 120 books. The next year I read 200. There's a couple of rereads in there, and I think there was some Goodreads shenanigans going on as well. But it was still about 204 books after all was said and done. If you follow the Goodreads tracker, it was 210. A lot of that was audio.
Well, I mean, I heard you say something about this, like you were talking about your total, right? And I remember you saying something about 210, and was it 95,000 pages? Was that what you were saying? Something like that?
Oh, it was more than 95,000.
Yeah, but you're like, a lot of that's audio. And I'm thinking, like, I do a lot of audio because I work I'm a mail carrier, right? So I'm out and about 10 hours a day or whatever.
But I see your shorts and I see you in your uniform.
Yeah, but like, that's still not like people think it's so easy. It's like, oh, well, you could just listen to 1 million books. I'm like, it's not like, to get to that level it's still like purposeful. It's like you're still like, I'm doing this thing.
I don't know how to check how many pages. I'm very technologically inept. So, but I don't remember. It might have been 95,000. I couldn't tell you reliably, but it was an ungodly amount. I didn't want to do that again. I'm purposely not reading as much this year.
And so when you say 210, is that 210 completed?
Yeah.
So how many did you DNF? Because I know you because you're not a habitual, but you do DNF, right? Like that's in your.
Yeah, Mike likes to rib on me a lot for being the DNF king.
Oh, okay. So you're the page and
Um,
the DNF king.
I mean, I can DNF anywhere from 3 to 4 books a month.
I mean, I could.
So
How long do you give it?
it really depends. I know my taste really well. I actually just DNF'd a book on the first page last night, but it wasn't something that was on my TBR. I was looking to unhaul. To be clear, I was looking for fault. But
I
like
know I'm
it
gonna
was
hate this
short.
book. I ain't making it through this page.
Well, so I know my taste. If you start talking about a 13-year-old's reproductive cycle on the first
No.
page, I'm not gonna vibe with the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, that I
And
could
the
see you
book,
there.
it was something I got through my subscription service through Goldsboro, and so it wasn't something that I picked. It's just something that they sent out to all their subscribers, and I was just like, okay, like she's thinking about a boy, she's feeling a tingle, she doesn't understand. Probably not gonna be my style of book. There's it's probably gonna lean if we're talking about that on the first page. This book is going to be romance heavy.
Yeah.
Romance is my thing.
No.
You send it to a better home. So if certain things are made abundantly clear very quick, I can DNF very fast. Just because I don't want to waste my time and mess around and find out. I don't want to get invested, or I don't want to get like oh, I've given it 300 pages. It's too late. Like, just want to move
Yeah.
on. I've
Yeah.
got all this amazing stuff to read, tons of self pub I want to get to, and I just don't have time really to read something that I am not going to absolutely fall in love with.
Yeah. You don't want to be hate reading stuff. So we got book. What's a book
Ooh,
we'd be
Fangs.
surprised?
That Fangs is awesome. I mean, there's a ton of books that really surprised me. I mean, any book that knocks my socks off, but I could go Alona Andrews, but I think this is a good one right here. Trials of Ashmount by John Palladino. The reason this is I DNF'd this book at 20%. And then I kept thinking about it. I felt bad about DNFing it. And so I picked it back up and it got 4.5 stars. So there was just something in here that when I was reading it, to kind of give you a hint on what the trigger is I was a new parent at the time for the second time. And there was something in there that was just made me go, nope, don't want to think about that. And I unfolded it and everything. And then I had the ebook. I went back, reread the ebook, fell in love with it. So,
yeah, it's weird because I actually review now. This would be impossible for you because you read so many books. But most of the books I read, I give a review in some form. Whether it's like sometimes I'll wait and I'll do like 3 books in one, but I review most of them. But I recently did the author tuber Jenna Marassi's book, and I've heard people crap on it really hard. And it is
that book is.
The Savior's Champion, and she's a big author tuber. Like, she'll do like top 10 tropes you should avoid, or these tropes are terrible. She's got like 300,000 subscribers or something like that. But when I started writing again, I was like, oh, looking for tips on YouTube, and she was one of the first people I found. But like a lot of like Daniel Green and some other people like were crapping on her book, and it is a romance heavy-ish book. She calls herself a romance writer, but it wasn't as romancy as you would think. But I actually liked it. It was one of those books, even though it was big, it's one of those books where like you see everything coming. But it's just kind of fun because I like tournament style. It's like a tournament style thing, and so I really liked it. But it was like, I think people were down on her because she's supposed to be giving all these writing tips. So people probably thought, oh, well, her writing should be like Steven Erikson level and all this. And it's not, it's not. Yeah. I mean, but it's, well, what do they call those, like palate cleanser books, easy to read books?
Yeah. So there's a couple things to touch on there. So it's very easy to understand what works and what doesn't externally. And then when you have to actually go and do it is another thing altogether. So between recognizing it, so her advice might be sound. I've never seen her channel. Execute, like Daniel Green ran into this issue when he did his books. A
Yeah.
lot of people were just like, dude, this is rough. Some of it was rough, and he was like, oh yeah, it's dark fantasy, and everyone's like, this is kind of horror. Like,
yeah.
you kind of
I
missed
found
the
it closer
fantasy mark.
to yeah.
And then so it's just, and also taste is an entire thing. Like a couple books, I will get messages from people. They were like, why did you recommend this book? It's like, because I enjoyed it, and here's the important sentence: for what it is.
Yeah.
For what it is, I enjoyed that. If I was only looking for something specific, and it delivers on what I was looking for, I had a good experience. If
Yeah.
you're looking if you're looking for everything to be Hobbit level Steven Erickson good, you're not. There's just not that much out there that's at that level. Sometimes it's nice to want some popcorn. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's nice to want just something cozy or relaxing. Not everything has to be exquisite content.
Yeah. Well, and and that's a thing you run into, is like a lot of things. It's like, man, like, oh, I was expecting it to be this. Like, I don't want like all these books to be where I'm like, I'm having to think about every single sentence, and like, like Malazan, like I after the third book, I kind of stopped. Maybe I'll go back someday, but it was just
I'm
like,
kind of in the same spot. I plan on doing the fourth book, House of Chains, but right now I'm on pause.
yeah, it's just it's so much, and it's, I don't know, it's weird. Like, normally, I mean, I like comedic characters, right? But normally they're not your favorite of a book series if there's multiple characters in the. But Krumpa is like the only reason that I like kept going. I'm like, okay, when he's around, it's a good time, it's fun. Other than that, I'm just like, I feel like we're, what's the meme of the Lord of the Rings, like, oh, we're walking, that's like, I just feel like I don't want to call it a slog, because that's like, some people are like, that's really bad, that's a bad slur word against books, but it was kind of like that, man. I was like, I felt like I was fighting my way through it.
So Malazan's an interesting one because it does so many things and it doesn't tell you what it's going to do. Like, I've read books 1 and 2 twice, and I've read book 3 once.
Yep, same.
And I liked Kruppa the first time. I didn't like him as much the second time. But also, like, in book 3, there's a fighting retreat scene in book 3 where you're not supposed to. It's just supposed to be cool. You're not supposed to take everything in Malazan super serious, despite the fact that that is your natural inclination to do so. So when I read this scene, I actually got mad at it because it's talking about stacking bodies so high that the bodies are going to the roof, and basically they're doing this retreat up the building, and the bodies are just filling up this building like to the brim, like hallways packed full of bodies from floor to ceiling, wall to wall, nowhere to move. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why is everybody okay? Everyone's like, oh, that was super cool. I was like, yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. And they're like, Andrew, it's a book. It doesn't have to make sense. And I'm like, well, okay, you're not wrong.
Yeah. But the way you work, you have to like earn my suspension of disbelief,
Yeah.
But, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, and anybody in the in the comments can, like, but some people will put like Erickson, they'll be like, oh, the greatest character work in any book ever is Malazan. No. And anybody could die in Malazan, and I wouldn't have cared. Like, if I do go back to book 4, I'm not going to be worried that anybody's going to die. Like, I've never been that attached to any of those characters.
Maybe it's a later series thing, but early series, no.
Yeah, like
there's some deep dives and some themes that are really, really relatable if you choose to dive into them. But excuse me, boba tea.
Oof. Yeah, nice.
Sorry, but no, it's just, I don't know. There's something about it, like a really great character. I actually DNF'd this book because the character work was a little too good. It freaked me out. Is Crown of Stars by Kate Elliott. I got to book 2, And there is a character in there, like I did a short on it. I don't know if you saw it, where I like my character, or I like my villains to be evil, not monstrous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the book I'm talking about. He's just the villain in question is just such a vile sack of crap, and he's so charismatic. Like literally, the Ted Bundy Netflix thing,
Yeah.
or the serial killer one. I didn't watch it, but like everybody was just like, "Oh, this documentary on Netflix is super creepy." I can just
Yeah.
picture him getting his Netflix documentary for all sorts of atrocious acts and getting away with it for years. Like it was just no thanks.
Have you read American Psycho?
No.
Yeah, yeah. That's that. I thought the movie, like, I love the movie, but yeah, the movie is. It's like you might as well just have someone dressed up as a Easter bunny, like compared to the book. It was ridiculous. I was like, oh my god, like some of the stuff they do in there. But one thing I did want to ask you is, you, myself, and I know you partake in the drug that's known as Cradle.
Yes,
Right?
I've actually got Black Flame right here.
Like Michael Nip is the one that got me into it. Like I was watching his videos, and he was
Patrick snared me.
Yeah, like I think I want to say Michael was like 8 books in, and like I kept watching it. It's like he was like, "Oh, this week I just started Cradle." Like the next week, it was like book 6. I'm like, bro, what is going on?
To be fair, the audiobooks, if you even listen at 1.5 speed, they're like 7 hours long.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not super long.
You know,
but it's also like if it snags you, it snags you hard.
Yeah, like I can't stop. Like, and then I hit Dread God, and then I became one of the waiters, and everybody's like, we've been did you do the captain? Have you?
I have done Traveler's Gate, I've done the captain, and I've done all of Cradle.
So what did you think about the captain?
So it's weird because I didn't love Traveler's Gate, but like there's some really great moments in Traveler's Gate. The captain starts out really strong, but what I'm concerned is with I'm concerned with POV structure of this series because essentially the next book is called The Engineer. So I'm concerned that there is going to be a POV shift away from Beric Valinar, who is why I'm reading the rest of the series. Like the Sevenfold Archmage is why I'm here. It's the main draw for me, and so I want to see the evolution of Varric, but at the same time, like Cradle is a progression fantasy. The Captain Last Horizon is not.
Yeah,
so
he's kind of.
He starts out at like 70%.
He's almost OP in certain sense. Yeah,
it's bombastic and ridiculous, but I mean, so is Cradle. So I enjoyed it. We will see what happens with the series when The Engineer comes out. I'll read it. I just picked up because he had all of his books on sale.
Yeah, like all of them.
I picked up both sides of the Elder Empire series. There's the Sea and the Shadow trilogies, which are the same series told from two. It's the same series, same trilogy told from different POVs.
Okay.
So he wrote the trilogy twice from different POVs or different sides of the conflict.
Now, are those smaller books too?
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't really write. I think Dread God to date is one of his longest books that he's written.
Yeah. Well, I think kind of, and as I've began, writing and publishing myself, this is one thing I figured out. It's like the POV, and like you can see it in. Are you into Red Rising?
I mean, I've read the 5 books.
Okay. Okay. Well, the last 2 are gigantic compared to the first 3, and it's all because he's telling the same type of story, but he's just he's throwing multiple books into one book with these POVs. So that's kind of why I was asking you whether it's like Will White's, those books were shorter, because if he was a normal, Tread Pub author, he would have just smashed them together and then just did 2 POVs inside of one book and made the book 600 pages.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was an interesting thought experiment for him to see if he could pull it off. I think it was just a bragging rights thing. And because he was self-pub, he could. To answer T's question, really all I do is sit. I have a thought. I try and see if it sounds interesting or has mass appeal. I hit record, I edit the short, I throw a text on there, and then I just publish it. There's quite literally, if you're asking how to do it,
do you do it from inside the app or do you film it yourself with yours?
Yeah, no, I film it myself first on my phone. And then I hold it vertically and all that. And then I just hit this plus sign right there.
You add it.
Create a short. You hit create a short. And then you go in, you select your thing. You can see today's short is right there. You can click it. You can edit it. Cut it down. So no matter what. And that's how I do shorts. I don't know if you're asking for ideas or if you're asking mechanically, how does it work?
Yeah, normally... originally, when I started doing them, I was actually doing them over on TikTok, and I was really only doing it on TikTok because TikTok had a green screen at the time, and I was mostly doing mythological creatures, and I would just have a picture of whatever creature, character, or whatever in the background, and then TikTok is really the nice thing about TikTok is it just allows you to just move that file anywhere. So I would put them on YouTube. I'd put them on Reels on Facebook. But then YouTube finally got around to updating and putting a green screen on there. So I really do most of my stuff here. But sometimes if I want to do like a little edit or something like that, I'll do it with my phone. And then I'll just use my little InShot.
I'm very lazy. I'm very lazy. I didn't even know there was a green screen feature. I figure out something that works and I just keep doing it.
Yeah. I don't use the green screen as much because I'm like running out of mainstream mythological creatures after a year. So now, most of my stuff is kind of funny book stuff and weird sayings that they use in every fantasy book, and how when you hear it you can't unhear it now, stuff like that. But I mean, like you said, I go on my lunch break or something, or if I can sneak away real quick, I'll just throw up an idea pops in my head and I just go ahead and knock it out. I mean, Tony, you can try it, man. You don't have to overthink it too much. Just something.
As long as you got 60 seconds of content, you're good to go.
Yeah. And actually, like, I have found that if you can just do something really catchy for 15 seconds, those do really well. But I don't always, like, sometimes you do want to just, do something more and stuff. But I find that 15-second clips, if you got something snappy, they do really well.
Well, and if you can tap into more than just one market as well. Yeah. So, like, the one I did this morning was on collecting. And so I talked about my collection, but I didn't just keep it to books. I was like, if you're a collector, and then you can tap into all sorts of like people who are just like, oh, I'm a collector of stamps. I'm a collector of keys. I'm a collector of used pantyhose, whatever. Like, I don't think people are quite collecting that, but if you are, seek help. I
don't know. Sometimes I'll do that. What Kay said, do a short and try to lead it into a full, link, a full video. Yeah. That might work. And sometimes I will do that, but I don't feel like that. I think you're probably better just getting a short that gets a lot of views that is somewhat in your genre, and then getting subscribers off of that.
I think Kay's idea works great if you've got a discussion style video or if you've got a tier list where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can really pull somebody in. Typical book review stuff or book haul or TBR, that link to try and pull people in. People want to kind of know something entertaining. How do you rank something so I can disagree with you? What's up, Shad?
Hey, hey.
But Kay's favorite, my favorite short of Kay's, she did within like I think it was the last week. And basically it's her talking about bookish friends and how we're basically just out to steal her collection. Um, I
That
loved
could
it.
be, you know what? That could be a running short. Like I have a couple of shorts that I was doing a kind of a run on, and they were actually doing pretty well. But yeah, that could be a thing. You can have people, send you short clips, and she could just chop it together as though you're trying to steal from her or something, trying to
That'd be
steal her
funny.
book.
I don't think you'll ever guess what my top short is.
Uh I know you had one recently that had like over 10,000 views, didn't you?
Yeah, I have one that's I think at 17K.
Nice.
And it is not fantasy related.
Yeah, sometimes we'll just hit. What were you hitting on?
It was just my top 3 Stephen King. That's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was the Stephen King. Yeah, I watched that one. I'm like, man, he killed it on that one.
I thought it was. I literally was just like took 30 seconds. That was nothing. I didn't think that was going to be anything. I've gotten 40 subscribers off of that thing.
Oh yeah. You can hit.
It's nuts.
Yeah, and
I didn't.
I was like, I
And
was
it's
thinking
funny.
about it. I
Like,
was like, why didn't I think about that? Like, yeah, Stephen King does really well, even when I had no subscribers on this channel. Like, I was, I might have had 100 or so. I did Fairy Tale like the second day it was out, and got like 600 views, having basically no subscribers. And I was like, well, Stephen King stuff can hit. Like I remember Mike talking about a long time ago, probably 2-3 years ago, talking about how Stephen King stuff doesn't really do well on the channel, but he loves it. So I'm like,
he still says that.
I'm like, I'm like, any Stephen King, like if you catch it at the right time, it can do really well.
Well, and then his doing well and our doing well are two very
Well, yeah. He's probably like, oh, I only got 2,500 views. This is terrible.
Yeah, it's like my
Worst
video
thing
only
ever.
got 3K views, and it's just like, oh, Mike, here's my tiny violin.
Like I just for the like today is the my Expeditionary Force failure mode video crossed 1,000. That's only the second book review that I've hit on 1,000
I
views.
have that one. I think I've got that audiobook. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Oh. Are you on failure mode? Have you went through the whole series?
Expeditionary Force, Book 1, Columbus Day.
Yep.
So I've got Columbus Day locked and loaded.
Oh, dude, R.C. Bray, like, is maybe the best. I mean, I love James Marsters, but like in totality of voices, like R.C. Bray is probably the best narrator. And I do a lot of audiobooks. This guy is crazy. But yeah,
Have you done Dungeon Crawler Carl yet?
No, everyone is like I keep getting hit with Dungeon Crawler Carl, and then I get hit with people wanting me to do Monster Hunters International. Those are like, because they know I like urban fantasy and stuff like that. Those are the two people have been thrown at me lately. Skippy the Magnificent. You are right, Nancy. Nice.
That's Larry Correa.
Okay, yeah.
That's Monster Hunter International. I have read I've read the first 7 Monster Hunter International. I've read that trilogy, and I've read the first 2 of Saga: The Forgotten Warrior. So I've read a lot of Larry Correa. Monster Hunter International it's machismo. It's all like guns and muscles and punching monsters in the face. Yeah, like it's
kind of like early Sandman Slim.
So that's what that is. Like, I mean, literally the book starts with him wrestling a werewolf. Like his boss gets turned into a werewolf, and he basically like wrestles him with like no equipment, and then like tosses him out the building, and he dies. But because he survived and doesn't turn into a werewolf, he gets recruited by Monster Hunter International, and then the series takes off from there. That's just the prologue. I haven't ruined it for you, trust me. That's the prologue of book 1. But the first 5 books are really, really good. After that, 6 and 7 were kind of lukewarm. I haven't read book 8 yet, so I can't inform you that. On audio, though, Jeff Hayes kills it. I mean, he does a voice for a talking cat called Princess Donut. And basically, it's the apocalypse will be televised. Like, the main character was like just broken up with his girlfriend. His cat jumps out the window. He's in his boxers and like a leather jacket, hops out the window to get the cat, and the apocalypse happens. Aliens invade. They turn subterranean Earth into a dungeon crawler. And then humanity has to go in and fight for survival for alien entertainment. And it is televised galactically. There's like sponsor deals, talk shows, all sorts of different aliens, traps. There's one on the cover of, I think it's book 2 or 3. There's a mantar. I said mantar, as in Minotaur, but it's a mantar, as in it's a man's torso coming out of basically a full-grown man, but the torso and the neck is where the human to human thing happens. And they're basically redneck bikers. It's hilarious.
All right, I can get down to that.
I love it so much. It's zany. It's crazy. It's got a really dark humor. Like, each book gets darker and darker and darker. But, man, it's so good.
Yeah.
I've read the first
and it's funny, like, with you reading so much, I've heard some people say recently that they, not that they haven't unsubscribed, but, like, I've asked people, like, who are your favorite booktubers and stuff? And they're like, well, I used to watch Daniel Green, but now all he seems to do is manga and anime and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, he's been on BookTube for about 7 years, right? He was one of the originals, you know.
He could still be doing self-pub if he wanted to.
Yeah. Well, okay. And here's kind of where I was going to go into the discussion. Okay. So he's been around for 7 years, and he probably reads 100+ books a year. So he's probably killed most of the series that everybody knows. So he was probably looking into, like, okay, what's the big thing that everybody is looking at right now? And Berserk, and I don't know if he made Berserk the big thing on BookTube, or if he kind of saw it coming, and then
Berserk
he's like, okay, I'll jump in.
To be fair, Berserk already had a following.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, like, on BookTube, because, like, now everybody's doing a Berserk thing, you know.
I think what it boils down to is, and this is not a criticism of Daniel Green or anything like that, or anybody else who does kind of shift away from the book reviews, because book reviews are evergreen content. It's not something that you're going to see explosive views out of right away. It takes a lot of time. Basically, people can always come to your channel. Unlike book haul or TBRs and wrap-ups and stuff like that, those are quick flashes in the pan, quick views and stuff like that. But, like, I've got book reviews that last time I looked at them, they had 100 views. I went back last week, they've got 3,000. You know, that took 2 years to kind of illustrate the point. But basically, I mean, there's a lot of people want manga content here on the channel, but book reviews aren't like, if you do this for a living, if you make your money off of YouTube, you've got to do something that's going to have mass appeal or can tap into a larger market. Yep. And so he still does his promotion of Please Your God Don't Be a Bomb, where he lets people send him his book. He'll showcase them. He'll toss them off the camera and they explode. And then he also just recently started doing more indie promotion on Fantasy News. That started last week. Actually, one of the first ones he did was this one, the Hero Interviews by Andy Ewington. I probably said it wrong. I'm gonna get a mean Twitter message from Andy now that I butchered his name. But like, I respect what he does. It's just, I don't know. He's moved into the YouTuber
Yeah.
category versus the booktuber category.
You know, he's even kind of mentioned that is that like he doesn't really do book reviews anymore. Now he does like one mass, like it used to be he'd do like a 7-minute book review, which for me it's actually hard for me to hold my reviews to like a 7-minute time frame. They always end up being like 10, 12, plus minutes. I'm like, that's kind of long for a review, but I just get into it, but yeah, now he does a big mashup of monthly things because, like you said, he's like, well, book reviews don't hit right off the bat normally, so he needs immediate views. And that's also what'll happen is like, anybody who like pays attention to their analytics, like if you have something that hits at the beginning, you get a lot of views. That's why these booktubers who have a lot of reviews will get a lot of views because, if you hit a good amount of views in the first hour, YouTube's going to push you.
Yeah.
And
I do not have that kind of reach. The majority of my videos hover right around 400 views. My long form videos.
Yeah.
They can get up to, and that's within the first 48 hours, and then I stop paying attention. Because I can't watch my analytics like that. I'll get stressed out. I do watch my subscriber count, but other than that, I don't really like. If my subscriber count is dropping suddenly, I need to see why it's dropped. But like, did I say something? Did I stick my foot in my mouth? Am I about to get canceled? Whatever.
We're in the Midwest, man. We don't care about that.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, it's so a good video for me is about 600-700 within the first 72 hours.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good video.
That would be good if once I reach that would be I'd be happy with that.
Just really what YouTube likes is it likes consistency. It likes you to pick a schedule and release on that schedule. So like for a while I was getting, when I first started doing shorts, I was doing daily shorts, and then I was probably doing 2 videos a week and 1 live, which was a whole heck of a lot. And I was getting probably 200 subscribers a month.
That's nice. Yeah.
Well, and then I missed 1 live, and YouTube went, "What are you doing?" And then I dropped 80 subscribers a month. They just stopped pushing the channel as much. So YouTube algorithm is all about consistency. Like if you start doing something long enough and then you change that, it is going to ding you.
Yeah, that's what happened with my shorts. There was a time where I was consistently doing a short every day and then a video every other day. And I haven't picked up these lives as much as I want to. I want to do a live a week, but and here's the thing, you can't be mad at people. It's like, hey, you want to come on? Sure, I'd like to come on. And then like something happens. It's like, well, life happens. It's just we're just doing this for fun, right? But yeah, I remember it was last November, December, and January. I just had this huge like surge, and I wasn't even expecting it because I was at like 800 subscribers, and then I got like 400 subscribers in December or something, and it was mostly from like my shorts, the mythological creatures things, like my Krampus video has like 115,000 views, and it was like it blew up. Yeah, it blew up in December. Like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, December's the time to do Krampus.
It's Christmas time. Everybody wants to know about Krampus, I guess. But it blew my mind.
Krampus has seen, at least in the U.S., Krampus has seen a bit of a resurgence. I think in the last 10 years. I think 10 years ago was the first time I heard about Krampus.
Yeah, and, a couple of movies came out
been around for like 200 years in Germany.
Yeah, they do. They do a festival every year.
I think it's Germany. It could be.
Yeah.
But
Bavaria, that area.
And then there was a Krampus movie or something like that. And...
Yeah, we've had a couple of Krampus movies now, and they're pretty good. I mean, they're just like
I haven't watched them. I just know they exist.
Yeah, first anime, was on Netflix at one point. Yeah, my friend just like we went out to Colorado in April, and he's like, "You're watching all the Berserk movies, all 3 of them," and and I actually liked him, but like he knows I'm not a big anime guy, and yeah, I love that red and black. Like
it's really handsome. I'm about halfway through the first collection.
Like
I don't know if I'm going to do content on it, honestly, though. I don't know, because when I put in my community tab, do you want to see Berserk comment? It was 50-50 split down the middle. Yes, no. So I don't think my community is quite Berserk community.
Yeah.
I somehow became the self-pub guy. I don't know how it happened. One day I was reading Sword of Kaigen, and then I picked up another. And then I picked up Cradle, and then it snowballed.
Hey, man.
I became one of the self-pub guys.
Yeah, and I'm starting to like. I have JC and Burn on my channel, all the time, and and I'm actually thinking about doing something with him and AR. Yeah. I think I'm gonna start like another side series whenever I can get people, and just have us self-pub authors just talking crap and like shooting the breeze and whatever. But yeah, we appreciate that, man. Like anytime, somebody, agrees to take on a book and read it, it's like, it's awesome.
It's gotten to the point where I've stuck my foot in my mouth.
I'm sure everyone's sending you their stuff.
So, okay, here's what happened. When I set up my channel, I thought it would be a good idea to add an email account for people to send requests or communications to me. I never thought I actually added it to the channel. I did add it to the channel in the About Me section, and then I proceeded to never check it.
You're like, you're flooded.
I didn't know that I had done this. And like I had added it when I was creating the channel, but I didn't know it was a public information. And so when I finally decided to go and link it, I realized, oh, this is already linked.
Yeah.
And so when I went and opened it up for the first time, because I never thought to open it, because who's going to be emailing an email address that I haven't made public to anybody? And I had 50 requests. And I accepted probably 25 of them at once.
Oh, man.
And since then, I've accepted another 20.
Yeah.
So I've got 7 audios, yours included, for More Than a Gunslinger. I've got at least 25 physical. So I'm currently 32 review copies behind. I've turned into Petrick.
No. No, man, but that's awesome. I don't even know. Like I have a PO box, like where we live, they provide it for us, and then all of a sudden, like a book showed up, and I didn't even know, like the person. I don't remember the person messaging me. Nothing. They just sent it to me.
Are you talking about Boo?
Yeah. You get you get it too.
I don't remember messaging Boo either.
I was like, I mean, I got it's right here. Yeah. It's a cool kind of like cartoony. Yeah. If you guys, right.
It just okay. What's worse is this just showed up at my house.
Oh, he got your actual address.
Yeah, this showed up at my house. I don't remember. Now I haven't gone and looked, but I have no memory.
I hope you talked to him.
I have no. Nico has it as well. Nico doesn't remember.
So I don't even remember.
Either Boo has some sort of mind powers where he has a way of getting information.
Yeah, like I said, I have my PO box, in the About section and in an email, one of my emails up there for people. So like. Yeah, I mean, if you want to send me stuff, that's cool. But like, he's never been in my comments that I've seen, nothing, And it was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like you sent me a book, nice little letter in there, whatever,
I mean, it's a cool looking book. I
Yeah.
don't. To be perfectly honest, I could have been of two minds. If he did reach out to me, I could have looked at it and go, "That looks funny. Yeah, sure, I'll read it." Or like, this is not something I would typically read. It's
Yeah.
not something I would typically say yes to.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll throw it on the shelf. It's a nice cartoony thing.
Yeah.
You know, cool. You know, I'll throw it. You know, I showed it in my little bookshelf tour. Like, yeah, I'll
I
give you
saw
some
that.
shine. Yeah, I'll give you some shine. I don't know.
It's funny. One of the easiest, because I'm subscribed to over 200 channels. The easiest way to get me to watch your videos is if you drop my name and then you like put it in. If you like tag me in the video, I'll probably 90% chance I'll watch
Yeah,
it.
so I'm same way. I'm same way. Yeah, like, but I think there are some people who don't know that that's a function,
Oh, really?
because I've had people talk to me and they're like, "Hey, threw up a video," and you know, and I'm like, "You did?" And then I go search, and they didn't put me in the thing at all or whatever. So I'm like, you know, if you have a video out there or if you've reviewed my book or something and I haven't messaged on it, like, make sure I'm tagged, because, like, you know,
It's
but
funny. Evie, do you know who Evie is?
she's only Evie. Is
Yeah.
that
So
yeah?
Evie does this thing where she'll do a video and then she'll wait 2 months and then she'll go in and add the tags. And then because it's not already a live video, it goes, "You were mentioned in this video." And I'm like, "I saw that video. That video was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
T did the same thing to me one time, because like I was like, "Oh, you were in a video," and I clicked on the mention, and I'm like, "This video is like a month old." And I was like, "You just."
It
I was
always
like,
makes me smile. I love Evie so much. She's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, he
Um,
wants to know about my book journey, self-publishing journey. Well,
wow.
well, maybe we could talk about that at some point, but I'm want to kind of stick on Andrew here for a while.
You
But
can talk about yourself. I don't care.
let me talk
My
about myself.
narcissism and ego does not need to be fed.
Let me talk about myself for a minute. Yeah. One thing I did, I've noticed a couple times in your videos recently. I don't know if this is a recent thing, or I haven't caught all the videos, but I've noticed you saying like you've DNF'd a book or you had to stop reading a book because of like one scene will just kill it for you. Is that a normal thing where you're just like, one scene is like, I'm done with this. Like, this is I can't do it. Because Stephen King normally has one scene in almost every book that you're just like, really? Did you need
that's the thing what King does. King waits. If King's gonna do a scene, he puts it at the end of the damn book.
Yeah, he sucks you in.
It's scene into the book. It's too late. You've already done read 1,000 pages. What are you gonna do? DNF now?
Oh my god.
But
like, yeah, like,
so
you could say The Gunslinger. You can just name a book, and people who've read it, like, yeah, we know that scene. Like, that's yeah.
It depends. It depends. So if I'm invested in the author like Stephen King, Stephen King is my most read author. I've read, I think, 30 books by Stephen King.
Woo, nice.
30 or approaching 30. I'm at either 28 or 30. I'm somewhere in that range. And so at that point, if I'm invested in an author, I will push through. If this is somebody who's new to me and like you've just caught me at a bad time, I'm already on the spectrum. So I have Asperger's, diagnosed as a kid, went through tons of speech therapy, whatever, what have you, did the whole gamut of stuff. And so I'm mostly functional, but I still have my idiosyncrasies. There we go. I get tongue tied a lot and stuff like that, but stuff sticks in my craw, and it's why like certain scenes, certain tropes, like Joanna recently called me out. Well, I say recently, it was like 5 months ago. She called me out, and she was just like, "Hey, so if something's not realistic, if you can't apply real world logic to it in a fantasy world, does that bother you? I said, absolutely. She said, do you think that's a you problem, or the fact that you just are expecting something that this world's not trying to do? And I mean, it's a me problem, because I should be able to suspend disbelief where magic exists. I should not be trying to force laws of physics on our world to work in a fantasy world. And I do that all the time.
Oh man, like
So
after reading the Dresden Files, I judge magic systems so harshly if they're not like set to like Newtonian physics and stuff. Like,
so a lot of stuff, I'm very particular about what I like, and like certain things, if you catch me at the wrong time, like when I just had my kids born, if there was infant violence, DNF. If a baby dies, DNF. Now, there's a side to that. If it's first person POV harm of a child, DNF. If it's background scenery, depends. Depends on how it's depicted. If it's just a kid lying broken on the ground, sadness. Versus staked and like flayed to the wall, DNF. Stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I forgot your question.
no. That's like that. Yeah, you pretty much answered the question. Yeah, it's just like because I know that you've been saying like, oh, this one scene, and I'm just done with this book. So
if an author's done it once, they're probably going to do it again. But like in the case of John Palladino and the Trials of Ashmount, that scene really bothered me. But then, like, it never happened again. And I literally, when I started the book, I picked up from where I DNF'd because I remembered pretty much everything, and then just moved on and had a great experience.
Now, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but have you read Cujo?
Yeah, I hate Cujo.
Man, that last bit, like the last like 10 pages of the book. Woo!
Okay, so
if you're a parent,
we're gonna dive into Cujo in a non-spoiler way. My issue with Cujo is I felt it should have been one of his novellas, or it should have been one of his short stories. And this is one of the things where idiosyncrasies get the best of me. My main complaint is it makes no sense. A million different things had to line up for that circumstance to happen.
Yeah, for that to actually happen, yeah.
And oddly enough, one of my biggest pet peeves is the mail carrier.
Yeah.
You're gonna sit there and you're gonna tell me that the drunk alcoholic repairman remembered when he was pissing off on vacation to forward his mail or to halt his mail. That's the thing he remembered to do.
Yeah. Well, and she doesn't take chances when she should have taken chances. That's the one thing that got to me. I'm like, what are we doing here? Go. There
was a billion dumb things that happen in that book that leads to how that book ends up.
But like,
maybe that's a billion dumb things.
I do I do like. I actually thought where Stephen,
it's my least favorite King book.
Like, I've read I think 12 Stephen King books so far. So, and I've read all the Dark Tower, but like he likes to go off on tangents and tell this story and tell that story. I actually think this is like Cujo was one of his best like doings of that, where you're just like, why are you telling me this story? It makes no freaking sense. And then they actually all did come together at the end. And you're just like, oh, okay. But some of his books, like, you didn't have to tell me that 100-page story. That didn't have anything to do with this. Like, you just wanted to like flex your writing muscle. Like he loved, like, I love Stephen King, but he's like, I'm gonna tell you a side story that has nothing to do with the book, but you're gonna love it. Yeah, it's like that's.
Have you read Misery yet?
That's my next book. That's the next Stephen King book I want to read. I have it.
So have you seen the movie?
A long time ago, yeah. Probably when I was too young to watch. I shouldn't have watched it.
So basically, in Misery, there's the story within the story, as in there will be chapters of him writing the story, and you're reading what he's written in that story. So it's a nested narrative, and it's just like, yeah, this is cool. It doesn't need to be here.
Well, and I know you probably read Carrie, right?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Yeah,
I
they're
have it. I haven't gotten to it yet.
like Carrie is really, even though it's his first book, I can tell why he became so popular. Like some people will say, like they don't like the because he does that aspect of after like long after the story, like news articles, and
I
they
love
talk
that
about.
though.
I freaking love that. Like I think that's so cool. They're like trying to piece things together after the
It
fact.
it's a hard thing to nail though. The foreshadowing that King does is you can either go too far with it or you cannot go far enough, and it becomes detrimental to the book. And specifically what I'm talking about is like him, but like, and he went for a walk, and he was going to be dead 10 minutes later, and you're like, well, give me more. And like the way he does that though, for me, is very engaging because a lot of people are like, well, you're spoiling your own story. Well, no, because now he's injected a little bit of tension that you have an expectation of. Now you need to know why.
Well, okay, so I was watching your tier list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you
Which
have
one?
the Stephen King tier list.
Okay.
And you have Wizarding Glass kind of low on your list.
It's because
right?
I hate that book.
Because I hate it.
The mayor. Honestly, the mayor and the cat licking lady.
Yeah, okay. So
ruined it for me.
He spoils the book.
Yeah.
He spoils the book really early. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone else because I really do like The Dark Tower. It's one of my favorites. But like he spoils it, and then like he builds, but then he almost goes into a normal thing where he's like, I'm building the tension, I'm building the tension. But you're like, I know what happens to this character. You know, I'm like, yeah, I know. Well, I know that this character's not here anymore, you know, with us. And I felt like that would have elevated the book to another level had he not told you that that was going to be the case. Like the tension was amazing, but it's like in the back of my mind, it's like, but it's not real tension, you know?
Well, but you also got to understand that the book's being told as a nested narrative. So they've asked him about his past, and then he starts telling about his past. And if you're starting the book from a present, then some things may be known. I'm a little bit removed from Wizarding Glass, so I don't quite know the spoiling that you're talking about. It's not present at the forefront of my mind. You don't have to tell me. But the thing that bothers me about Wizarding Glass is it's a fantastic story. Fantastic setting, fantastic story. But there are certain characters in there where he went too far.
Yeah.
He went, like the mayor being one of them. He's just a perv.
Yeah.
And the things that he does being pervy, I don't want to read it. that is nothing but a massive detractor to the story, in my opinion. And then the witch being just
the worst. The worst.
Like just licking cats and hypnotizing and
it's like what
naked people.
I
like,
think
I'm just like
I think King got caught up a little bit with that character, with the witch character, and basically turned her into the bad guy who kicks puppies. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you know he's really bad because he just kicked a puppy for no reason, and you're just like, all right, or you know, I've said this in one of my old videos. It's like, okay, sometimes authors try too hard. They're like, all right, they make the bad guy a Nazi. It's like, oh, okay, we know everybody that hates Nazis. Then that guy kicks a puppy, and you're just like, oh, he's the worst. You know, she's over there like doing filthy things that really make no sense to the story just to show how bad she is and stuff. You're just like, okay,
yeah. So that just the fact that I have to read those characters is why I ranked it so low. I thought the character work on those two characters was really poor.
Yeah.
I felt like it was in there only for shock value. And if you're gonna put something in there only for shock value, that doesn't add anything. I mean, like you could have made the mayor not as creepy, and she could have still not wanted to marry him.
Yeah.
Like that was very easy to do. You didn't have to do it like that.
Now,
I'm trying to be as vague as possible.
yeah. So, what is your reading like schedule? Like, what are your strategy? Like, how like do you have a job that just allows you to do a lot of audiobook too, or like?
I basically I work in what is essentially boiled down to contract review and data entry. And I work from home.
Okay.
So basically, after about 9 o'clock, once I got my kids all settled, computers booted up, coffee's in my system, I listen to audiobooks for at least 4 to 5 hours a day, bare minimum.
Yeah, that's about what
Um,
I can get in. Yeah, maybe a little more.
Now, lately, I've been slowing down and getting about 2.5 to 3 hours, just because my attention span is everywhere. Um, and I've actually been slowing down quite a bit lately. It's been kind of rough getting physical reading done with my eyes. I'm currently dealing with 2 kids. What am I hearing? I think my cat's doing something. Anyway, it was a very disconcerting sound. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so about 2.5 to 3 hours lately of audio a day, which has really slowed me down. And then anywhere from 1 to 2 hours of physical reading. And then that's been interspersed with like trying to watch a little bit more TV, spend more time with my kids, go out and doing summer events because the weather's so nice. I got to get out and,
Yeah.
do the parenting thing because, I want the kids to have a fun and, adventurous childhood. I want them to have the childhood that, they can look back on fondly. So that's very important to me. So I'm not getting as much physical reading done as I should. I've been working on this for 3 days and I'm only 10% in. Now, granted, it's beefy.
Yeah.
I'm just not getting a lot of reading done. There's nothing wrong with the book. I don't know.
Busy.
We'll see
Yeah,
what happens.
man.
We'll see how the month shakes out. And I got my SPFBO obligations that I got to do for the next 2 to 3 months for
Oh,
Bookborn.
yeah. So, how many books do you have to read for that?
6.
Well, I mean, that's not what. Like, when do you have to have them in by?
I think the end of July.
Oh, well, okay. So
No, not
kind of
July. End of August. Mid-August?
so you got
Sometime
like
in August.
so you got like 3 months to get through.
Yeah.
Not too
It's not
bad.
terrible. I think the competition ends in around April. Oh, my knee. But yeah. So it'll be interesting. There's some that I'm just really super excited about. Like just pumped for.
Yeah, I seen. Yeah, it like I guess that thing filled out in like 45 minutes or whatever.
Every year has gotten quicker and quicker and quicker.
And the worst part about it is like like we were talking about at the beginning, like being technologically, and I'm the same. So I was trying to look into it and stuff, and I was like, okay. And I think I made it in time, but maybe I didn't. I don't know. It was like with how quick they said to do it, but I mean, I think that's really cool. Did Will White get in this year?
No.
I thought somebody, or maybe somebody was just talking about it along with the Swiftbow, but
Will White doesn't need it.
yeah, that's what I was like. I was watching his release stream before we got on, and yeah, I mean he's living the self pub dream right there, man. Like
him, Philip C. Quintrell, John Beers, Ryan Cahill, and then he's out there with like Michael J. Sullivan.
Well, and they were talking about. Some people were talking about like I just read Rage of Dragons, and
I can't stand that book.
It was okay. It wasn't the hype because and it's so funny that you would say that, right? And Chaz says the same thing. He hated the book, but when it first
I DNF'd it before the action even started. I was bored before we got to it.
Like when like if you go on BookTube and you look for reviews, it's like 99% like rave reviews, and I'm like, I don't know, but it just, to me, when I see 99% rave reviews, something smells fishy to me. Like, nobody, nothing in this world 99% of people like. So like, my review, I mean, I have some stuff like I've never read the word noble, lesser, commoner so much in a book in my life. I like the book, but it was like at one point I was laughing. Like, because it was every single, like, I bet if you like had someone did a mathematical breakdown, no more than 3 sentences without one of those in it. Like, that much. I'm like, I get it, man. You're talking about a class system. You're like, that's your thing in this book. I get it. But you don't have to say it so much till where it's like I'm laughing that it's come up again, It's like, whew.
I got I don't really want to spoil it, but I never even made it to Tao's tragedy. I never made it there. I never made it to what made him a rage monster. I was just like, you're not interesting to read, and I just shut the book and.
And that, it's weird too. That's another thing. He himself is not that interesting. Like, his character doesn't really change at all. He's a single-minded, gotta go do this, gotta be the best. But it was interesting enough for me to continue and finish and see what's going on, the world around them. And he used some interesting things. Like, he used a couple anime things, tropes in there that I was like, okay, that I'm not going to spoil anything, but hyperbolic chamber, if you know what I mean. But, I don't know. I just seen so, like, with him, he made it. I don't know how big the book was before he got his traditional deal, but
I have no idea.
People were talking about, like, oh, wouldn't that be great to, like, have your book do really well and then get a traditional deal? And I'm like, if my book ends up doing really well, why would I go traditional? Like, I'll just do what Will White does and just hire my close friends and family, and and you can keep most of the money for yourself, and you have all the creative decisions. Like, when you're as big as Will is, like, you have the money to do all the things that you want to do. It's not like, oh man, now I need to put out this much money for an editor and this money. Like, he's got the money, and he can have people do what he wants and have full control over it.
Oh yeah, no, Cradle is a money machine at this point.
I mean that's the way to go. Is like, and then you got Sanderson, who gets huge, right? And then he puts on a Kickstarter and makes like $30 million. So it's like, I can. People are like, well, is this going to be the future? And I'm like, it might be the future for really big traditional people, because when you're in traditional realm, you sign like a 7-book deal or a 7-year deal, and anything you do has to go to them. But maybe, people asked Jim Butcher about going self-pub, and he was like, maybe in the future, but right now I don't have to do any work, and that's just the thing. It's like, how much work do you want to have to do yourself? I'm sure he could do a Kickstarter and make millions of dollars too, and then not need the traditional publishers. But some people just want to relax and just write and let everybody else do all of the work.
Yeah. But, well, I mean, do all the marketing work.
Yeah.
Because writing ain't easy. I've tried. I'm not very good at it.
Man. Well, I mean, it's kind of like you said with Daniel Green. It's like
those who can't do, recommend.
Sometimes you can see every single thing, but then putting it together is hard. And really, it's like it's a time thing too. It takes a lot of time to write. And the more booktube I do, the less writing I get done. So, like last year when I was finishing up my 3rd book, that's when my video like started slowing down because it's it's when you want to be coming in here for a half hour and recording a video is like, no, you should be writing for this half hour trying to finish this book.
Yeah. No, trust
well,
me.
And I remember seeing that you had Orbit of Sirens. Is that the number one book on your list? Is that still there? I know that was an older video that you did.
What do you mean?
You had a top 10 list for now, was like your top books of all time.
I don't know if I ever put In the Orbit of Sirens as my number one book of all time. That might have been a quarterly video.
Maybe. So what's your book right now that would be hard for anything to top?
Oh gosh, why would you ask me that?
Because if you're like me, it starts ragging your brain. You're like, oh my god.
In terms of like the book is perfect. Man. To recommend to just about anybody, it's probably The Green Mile.
Okay.
By Stephen King. That book is amazing. Needful Things would be a close second. So both are King books. But if we're going fantasy, flawless, like perfection. That's a hard one. Because as much as like people praise The Sword of Kaigen, it's not perfect.
Yeah, I hear nothing but good things about Sword of Kaigen. I know that's on my list.
If you're hearing nothing but good things about Sword of Kaigen, nobody's telling you the whole truth.
Oh.
No, don't get me wrong. It's a 5-star book. It's a flawed 5-star book. Because there are certain plot lines that don't go anywhere. The series has been abandoned by the author because she couldn't figure out how to. She tried to weave in superhero stuff, and it doesn't work.
So how many books are there in the series?
So Kaigen was a standalone in a world that had 2 YA books, 2 YA portal fantasy books tied in that it was like 5 to 10 years after the fact. So if you remove the superhero stuff and tighten up the ending a little bit, the book is perfect. But because that stuff is in there, it's not perfect. I can't tell you a single fantasy book that, I mean, yeah, no, I refuse to answer.
Okay. Let's think about it like this. What's a fantasy book that you can reread and never get tired of?
Never get tired of.
Where it's just like, it's just a good time.
Well, I would say Eye of the World, but I mean, I've read that book 9 times, so that's not fair. Let's do. I mean, I think it would be really cool to reread Debunked by Dito Abbott.
Debunked, okay.
That's a YA fantasy adventure. I was totally my jam for like 3 months, and I could totally reread that again.
Like
The Judas Blossom this isn't out yet, but by Stephen Aryan is amazing. And then The Coward by Stephen Aryan is also amazing. And I could probably reread Blood Song by Anthony Ryan until the day I die. So
like my top book is Changes of the Dresden Files. That's like number 1, right?
Okay.
But my favorite is Skin Game. I love a heist, and it's just, to me, it's just a fun, a fun, crazy book. And there were some like epic moments in Skin Game, but I still would say that Changes is the best, but Skin Game is probably my favorite. That's kind of.
So where did you fall on Battleground and Peace Talks?
I am super glad that he released them in the same year. Well, because if it was like I had to read Peace Talks and then we had to wait a year for Battleground, I would have been mad. Because, Peace Talks to me is is a really, I mean, you can tell it was supposed to be one big book. But
Oh yeah, you can definitely tell. I think it's some of the weakest stuff in the series.
yeah, but Battleground, I really, I mean, I really liked it. There were some heart wrenching moments in there where you're just like, man, it was rough.
For me, I could tell that the book had been split up and not split up in not a very interesting way. It felt forced. The split felt forced. Like let's put some stuff in here to give it a beginning and an ending, and then it didn't follow the traditional Dresden formula because Battlegrounds is just straight battle. It's just one.
It is all gas, no brakes. Yeah, there's no time to breathe.
I don't like books like that. I like to have rising and falling action.
Yeah.
I like to have a climax. It's got a gut punch in it, but other than that, like,
yeah, well,
it didn't work for me. And then to have, oh no, someone's been taken over again. But you already done that. Stop.
Now,
and then we're going in the series with like Mab's crap. I'm not interested in that.
Like, I asked everybody this, like, so did you feel like a lot of stuff in this book was like fan service because he'd been gone for 5 years? Like, I feel like he's like, I'm gonna put in all your favorite characters, and like some of it, like probably. And when we did our Dresden discussion, it was like some of it didn't need to be in there. You can tell, like, he was just like, okay, we'll just add this in, we'll add that character in. But yeah, reading Peace Talks, it felt like he's like, oh, it's been 5 years. Here's some of your favorite characters.
So to give you kind of an insight, I'm going to try and be as non-spoiler as this. He released a short story before the 2 books came out. Through that short story, me and my boss, who were both big Dresden fans, already knew the gut punch. We already knew.
Yeah, I don't remember that right offhand, but I remember at the time
it was a Christmas story.
Yeah.
He did a short story, Christmas story, where he mentions some things, and we were able to extrapolate what happens in Battleground. So I already knew. So he spoiled what should have been heartbreaking, and I already knew it was there before the book ever released. Because if you knew the characters, if you knew the way that Harry is, by reading that short story, you already know what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of people were like on the forums and stuff were like, I remember them speculating like, oh, he's not really going to do this, is he? And,
we already knew.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
We'll see how the series goes. I personally think Dresden is getting a little long in the tooth.
Yeah, I think we're due for a down-to-earth, like a lowering the stakes, which is what I think 12 months is going to be. And I think 12 months is either going to revitalize or it's going to make people, or it's going to make us be like, okay, it's time to just run right into this apocalyptic trilogy and not draw it out too much more, because it's a different format. Most Dresdens are the worst week or two of the year. Yeah. This is a whole year book. So it's going to be like, it's a whole new ball game for, Jim to be writing, So I'm really hoping that it's going to, it's going to be like the mind bending.
Did you read Briefcases and
Briefcases and Side Job?
Side Jobs?
Yep.
So you've read the Lucio Wild West story?
Yes, I have.
That's what I want. I want him to ignore all this Dresden crap and go write Lucio in the Wild West.
I know, because you are a fantasy Western guy. Like, I was super excited about that, because I don't like, now that I watch your channel more and stuff, and I'm looking for it more. I find it more, but not a lot. There's not a lot of fantasy westerns out there. Like, it's not as much as you would think. You're like, I got them. I got all of them.
Do I have another one? I'm sure I've got another one somewhere. But yeah, no, there could be 100% more of them, and there's just not. And it's something
Western
that just
is, Western is a huge genre, like, but fantasy Western not so much.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know. There's just something about the way it works that just really tickles my pickle.
Well, when I went into writing More Than a Gunslinger, I was just like I was like, well, nobody touches on the tall tales in fantasy. Like, I rarely see, anybody talking about those type of things, or not a lot of Native American stuff. And I was just like,
here it is.
The Bleeding Stone. Nah, that's a nice cover too.
Yeah, I think it's a Felix Ortiz. Yeah, it is. But this is technically a fantasy western as well.
And so I was just like, that was my thing going into that story. It's like, it's within my same universe. So, and I know, like, you have More Than a Vampire now, and you'll catch, and that was set 150 years before. So, you'll get to catch a couple characters here and there, but I try not to, like, I don't want to be like, all right, push this character into a whole new book unless the book's about them. But there are some cameos here and there. But yeah, I just wanted to, like, how do the tall tales fit into a world where all mythology is real? Where do they come from, and how do they fit into it? But yeah,
that's a fine line that you got to walk when everything is fair game. You've still got to make it work with normal world. So that's always very interesting. One of my favorite things about More Than a Gunslinger was you had your main character have this ability to move things closer into frame just by dilating the eye. I love that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, well, I had thought it's easy to do in a movie. It's easy to do, like, bullet time and stuff like that. But I was like, well, how am I going to have a gunfight be really exciting, inside of a book? Like, swords are, like, I can do swords, like, that's pretty easy coming. But, like, so I was like slowing down how you can move your reaction time and slow things down and bring things closer into focus, and just like sensory type things. And I know one of your things on the book was you wished it was a little bit longer. And
well, yeah. So when you, and I'm forgetting, the name is blanking on me, but when your main character, like, meets these people, it's just like that. She's part of the group and she's moving in, and it's just like, wait, I had to go back and reread it. It's like, did I miss the transition? No. Okay. So I was just wanted, like, a little bit of a beefier middle section.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I still really enjoyed the experience. The shooting competition is what stuck with me throughout the whole book.
I've heard multiple people say that. They're like, oh, I really liked how you went into that with, Izzy and the,
Izzy,
the gentleman in black, or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't want to, spoil anything, but yeah, I really, because I like doing, action scenes, but I want to make people be able to see it in their mind. Some people, like, they pull back a lot when they do their action scenes, and it's like, okay, he swings and they give you one or two things and it's over, and you're just like, I mean, they're like, use your own imagination. I'm like, yeah, but I want you to kind of, give a little bit more to me so I can see it.
See, my ideal combat scene, and I got to be wrapping up here soon, but we'll talk about this real quick. Is I like when we're doing combat and it's kind of in the POV and then it zooms out, kind of goes around the battlefield, zooms back in,
Oh, okay,
pulls
yeah.
back out, and so you get these snapshots, and it can be snapshots of all just one character, or it can be snapshots of like two characters interacting across a battlefield and dealing with their own issues, and then kind of pull out and see how each side's doing. I don't like fully pulled out, and I don't like fully zoomed in. I like a nice dynamic to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that that's compelling in a great way to make battles more interesting, because I get battle scene fatigue very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
because it's like epic battle, like military fantasy. Ugh. Like
oh, yeah,
there's a siege. They're form up lines. And I'm just like, okay, like whatever.
What?
And then they always just crash together, and my brain just goes, insert chaos battle.
Yeah, insert chaos. Yeah, but yeah, that's the one thing I was trying to do with the second book, and I've learned how to better do it through as I finished the third book. Is since it's all first person, I can't just I can't do the third person and like show the whole thing. But I've learned how to like how the person happens to see other people fighting, and it blends together and makes sense, so you can see other characters doing things. But yeah, like you said, when you have battle after battle after battle, it's like, with More Than a Gunslinger, I was like ramping it up so you could see that a big battle was coming, but I didn't want to I wanted to have one solid, big battle, and like not have people fatigued about it. But
that's kind of my issue with Battleground, is battle fatigue.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing, where it's just like, how much can you put these people through over and over, and it's almost like it's the walking trope, but they're fighting the entire time. You're walking down Main Street in Chicago till you get to the
it felt like Final Fantasy. I'll take 5 steps, random encounter. I'll take 5 steps, random encounter.
Yeah.
And I was just like, listen, it's interesting, but can we sit down, have a donuts, and play some games or something?
So I don't know, hold you up too much. So what are you reading, and what can we expect from you video wise here coming up?
So I've got a vlog for SPF B09. I sampled 6 books that are not related to my team. I did that with Tori from Tori Talks. So my team and her team were off limits, but everybody else was fair game. That's my first vlog, so that's coming out on the 12th. And then I'm currently reading Mother of Learning Arc 3. I just picked up in the huge, massive Audible sale that's going on right now. They're doing 85% off site-wide.
Yeah.
I just picked up books 3 through 6 of Mage Errant. So after I finish Cradle and Mother of Learning, Mage Errant is next up for my fantasy progression. And then I am currently also reading Divinity's Twilight Remnant by Christopher Russell.
That's a thick one.
And then I have More Than a Vampire on audio that I need to get to at some point in the next 3 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I appreciate you. Coming on the channel.
Yeah.
Everybody, where can we all find you? I know we got the YouTube, but
you can find me on YouTube, Andrew's Wizardly Reads. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, all under Andrew's Wizardly Reads. Or if you just want to chat on a more regular basis, in the description box of all my videos, I have the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord run by me and Nico's book reviews. And I'm usually up to some sort of shenanigans in there on a daily basis.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew. And thanks everybody for stopping by. And if there's any other questions that you guys want to answer, just throw them in the comments on the replay, and we'll get to you. But thank you all for showing up, and thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.